the cut on his hand, some would say, well, doesn't the cayenne pepper hurt? It's already hurting. And the sting, it subsides. It's like when you take it by mouth, it'll tingle, but then it'll subside. But some call it the first aid kit in one, just the cayenne pepper. And why it's so powerful is because it moves blood. And tomorrow afternoon we're looking at heart health, and we'll be looking at the importance of cayenne pepper in strengthening the heart, in strengthening the arteries, and also keeping the blood nice and thin. But right now we're going to be looking at how the body detoxifies itself, because we live in a body with an inbuilt ability to heal, and part of that healing is cleaning house, detoxification. And I'm going to show you what happens at Misty Mountain Health Retreat. So our guests come in on a Sunday. Now, there are two retreats that I frequent from time to time, who've also discovered that the program we're using at Misty Mountain is so effective that they are also doing the same program. And one is Eden Valley in Denver, Colorado, and the other one is Living Springs Retreat in Roanoke, Alabama. So the first day that the guests come in is usually a Sunday, and we give them a beautiful lunch on Sunday, and that beautiful lunch, the memory of it, helps them through the next 2 days, which are juicing days. So on Monday, we serve a juice at 8 a.m., at 10 a.m., at 12, at 2, and at 4 p.m. And at 6 p.m., we serve a thin soup. So it's like a broth. And one of the reasons we do this is because between 3 and 6, our guests are having steam saunas. And in the steam sauna, they are perspiring a lot, and yes, they're sweating out waste, but they're also sweating out some minerals, and we need to replace the minerals. And so we cook a lot of vegetables in a lot of water for about 4 hours, then we strain it and put some the mineralized salt in there, and that's what our guests have at 6 p.m. Now, the juice that we predominantly use is 80% carrot and 10% celery and 10% apple. It's often called the vegetarian's milk because you could just about subsist on this mix. In fact, I have met 2 women who gave this to their babies instead of milk, because these babies had severe allergies and couldn't handle any type of milk. And so we give it 5 times a day, 8, 10, 12, 2 and 4. And we usually give about an 8-ounce glass. Now, one juice might have some beetroot in it. Another juice will do less carrot and put some cucumber in. Some juice we put some greens in. Some juice we put ginger. So variations on the theme. Tuesday is very similar. We serve a juice every 2 hours. 8-ounce glass. Now with that, on the Monday, we serve a green barley supplement. So these supplements I'm going to describe to you are about 3 ounces, I think. I'm just guessing because I'm used to mils. We give a protein supplement with the juice at 10, green barley at 12, protein at 2, green barley at 4. Tuesday it's a little different. We certainly give the juices again, but on 8 we do the protein, 10 green barley, then protein, green barley, protein. Excuse me. Now, this will all make sense in a minute when I begin explaining how the liver works at detoxification. So this is what your liver looks like, and the liver lives under your right rib. And all through our life, environmental poisons come into our body. And everything that comes into our body goes first to the liver. And the liver determines where it goes. And if it is food, it sends it to the cell or stored as glycogen, or the excess, as we also looked at, is stored as fat. But when poisons come into our body, our liver looks at it, assesses it, and says, yes, we can eliminate that one. Or it might say, this is very toxic, wrap it up in fat and store it. And so in many fat cells today, especially the environmental poisons that we are exposed to, depending on you, your lifestyle, what you do, what you're exposed to, as to how many environmental poisons might be stored up in the fat cells. So we had a Vietnam veteran do our program. I mentioned Vietnam because that was the first war where chemical warfare was used in such large amounts. And he told me that his doctor said to him, don't lose weight. Now, why did his doctor say that? Is because stored in his fat cells were some fairly nasty things. But he came to the retreat because he did want to detox. And he'd heard about our detoxification program, which I'm about to explain to you, and you will explain why he wanted to do it this way. So Monday evening, because there is no solid food served, the body often begins detoxification then. And then Monday morning, no solid food. There's only liquid. I say to our guests, we're going to feed you very well over the next 2 days, but it's all going to be liquid. In fact, you couldn't eat in a day what we put in your juices, so you're getting high nourishment. And as I go through how the liver detox, you'll understand the importance of that. And so usually about Monday, phase 1 of the detox, the liver detoxification begins. In phase 1 of the liver detox, because what's happening is we're not giving enough glucose for the body to run on. And so it starts breaking up the fat cells to give that glucose. And as the fat cells release the glucose, they release something else. They release the fat-soluble toxins that have been building up in our fat cells all our life. And what's interesting about the body, if all of those environmental poisons were to come out right now, we'd be dead. And the body lets it go little by little. You've heard the statement, treatment was successful, but the patient died. We want to keep the patient alive and working well. And so the 3 phases of the liver detox, which has only been known since early 2000, shows exactly why we should detox in this certain way. So Monday morning, the fat cells are releasing the glucose that our cells need, but the fat-soluble toxins are also released. The fat-soluble toxins come once again into the blood, once again come to the liver, and the liver says, not this guy. Wrap him up in fat and store him, the liver is about to say when it says, hang on, they're at the health retreat. They're receiving the nutrients necessary to break this fat soluble down to a water soluble state. You see, it can only be released as a water soluble state. And so in phase 1, the process begins. In phase 1, this fat soluble toxin is broken down to a metabolite. So what's a metabolite? A metabolite simply means first stage of metabolism or first stage of breakdown. But this metabolite is quite toxic. In some cases, depending on the environmental poison, it can be 100 times more toxic than it originally was. This metabolite creates a lot of free radicals, and free radicals basically damage the tissues, and it's highly volatile. And so you might look at this and say, what's the liver doing? It's just created something worse than it originally was. It's a process. What does the kitchen look like when you're cleaning out the kitchen cupboards? 100 times messier. What does the garden shed look like halfway through cleaning out the garden shed? 100 times messier, so it's a process. And your liver has certain needs as it goes through this process to help your body cope with this toxic metabolite. So in phase 1, your liver needs antioxidants, because antioxidants are free radical scavengers. The fact is that a free radical is an electron short, and it grabs from the next atom. So it's now an electron short. So you get this cascading damage effect in the body. Whereas antioxidants, they come along with lots of electrons to calm that process down. The most potent antioxidant is beta-carotene. And beta-carotene is found in all your orange and your green coloured vegetables. And the juices that we give our guests are either green or orange or red. So we supply high antioxidants. The other famous antioxidant is vitamin C. Vitamin C is not ascorbic acid. In plants, ascorbic acid is found with bioflavonoids. So if you are going to use a vitamin C, please use ascorbic acid with bioflavonoids. That's the whole C. Another famous antioxidant is vitamin E, and vitamin E is a fat-soluble vitamin, and we supply the vitamin E when we give the protein drinks. The vitamin C, we put a little in the green barley. And also the juices have some vitamin C. Now, I'm writing these sideways because they are not antioxidants, but they are required by the liver as it goes through phase 1. Minerals, if you're having that crystal of Celtic salt with every water, or Baja salt, if we also put a nice amount of salt in the broth at night, you're getting the minerals, plus as much as possible we use organic, so there's minerals in the juices. Within 36 hours of beginning a detox program, phase 2 kicks in. And so for our guests at our retreats, phase 2 begins on the Tuesday. On phase 2, the liver takes this highly toxic metabolite and joins it together with amino acids. The union of amino acids with this toxic metabolite, it's like a joining together, it produces the water-soluble state. And remember, as a water-soluble toxin, it can be easily released out of the body. Now this explains why on Monday we give 3 doses of green barley. We buy a green barley powder, we mix it with a little lemon juice and water, and we put some vitamin C and B in that. And we give it to our guests, about 3 ounces, with their 8-ounce juice every 2. Well, we give the juice every 2 hours, but the green barley every 4 hours. But on Tuesday, when our guests go into phase 2 of the liver detox, we give them more protein because they need the amino acids to mop up that toxic metabolite. So what do we use for a protein powder? We use a pea protein powder. In places like Whole Foods, Sprouts, they have quite a selection of protein powders today. You can get hemp protein, brown rice protein, or pea protein powders. It's just important to look at your ingredients to make sure there's no additives, chemicals, refined sugars. And how we mix it, we put it with a little almond milk or organic soy and a little bit of coconut milk. So we might do a teaspoon of protein powder, a teaspoon of coconut milk, and a few teaspoons to make up 3 ounces of almond or organic soy milk. And we mix that. Our guests don't usually like the green barley, it's not very nice. I say, take your greens and then have your delicious juice, but our guests very much like the protein drink. Can you see the importance of having the protein drink? Yes. Especially on the Tuesday, when the liver goes into the second phase of the liver detox. It is the amino acids that are required to mop up that toxic metabolite, to create the water-soluble state. Phase 3 happens in conjunction with phase 2. And in phase 3, the liver takes the water-soluble state and it releases it out via the sweat glands. Another reason why our guests have a steam sauna every afternoon. I say to our guests, when I used to work at Misty Mountain Health Retreat, I used to give this lecture on Tuesday morning as their bodies are going through it. And I would say to them, your most important steam bath is tonight. Because tonight you are releasing more water-soluble toxins than any other time of the week. On Wednesday, our guests start to eat. We give them breakfast at 7:30, we give them lunch at 1:30, and they don't eat solid food again until the next morning. So what we do with our guests is time-restricted eating. So the time-restricted eating is eating twice, 6 hours apart in 24 hours. And so our guests experience an 18-hour fast from lunch, say 2 o'clock when lunch is finished, through to 7:30 the next day. So they will still be detoxing, but it's slowed down a little. So we say to our guests, make sure you have a big sweat tonight because you're releasing more water-soluble toxins tonight than any other time of the week. They will continue to detox, and that's one of the beauties of the time-restricted eating. But it'll slow down a bit. So your body will throw it out of your sweat glands, and by the way, your skin is the largest organ of elimination in the body. We don't often think of it as that. Dr. Kellogg, famous doctor from the late 1800s, early 1900s, wrote many books on health. He called the pores in the skin millions of little sewers, like a sewage system. You say sewers? S-E-W-E-R-S, sewers, yeah. Throwing off waste. Let them. Also, these water-soluble toxins can be eliminated out of your kidneys, and that's why it's very, very important to drink adequate water. We say to our guests, or we encourage our guests to have a glass of water between every juice. So they have a glass of water at 7, at 9, at 11, at 1, at 3, at 5. Then they easily are well hydrated by the time they go in their steam sauna. Because I say to our guests, you cannot hydrate your body half an hour before the steam sauna. You have to start as soon as you wake up in the morning. These water-soluble toxins can also be released out of the colon. And we have a tea that we give our guests. The tea is in my book, The Self-Heal by Design. It's called colon tea. and it gently stimulates peristalsis in the colon. And because our guests aren't eating for 2 days, we give them a glass of that tea before they go to sleep Sunday night, Monday night, Tuesday night. Yeah?
How long's the sauna?
How long's the sauna? So usually about 3/4 of an hour, so it's 10 minutes in the hot sauna and out in the cool creek. In the winter, we're saying it's time to go in the creek, ladies. In the summer, we're saying it's time to get out of the creek and go back into the sauna. They're not in the creek long in the winter. It's cold. But the better the dunk that you do, the more you can handle the hot steam. The only part of the body that doesn't like getting hot is the brain. So we give a little bucket of cold water with a face cloth, and they can pat the head down in the steam. If someone has a congested chest and they're finding the steam hard to breathe in, we give them an extra face cloth and they can just breathe through that. One lady said, my doctor said I can't have the steam bath, I've got high blood pressure. I said, well, I don't believe it's a problem. I said, if it was me, I'd just go in with an ice pack on my heart. And that's what Dr. Kellogg would do with racing hearts. He put an ice pack on it. That'll slow anything down. So this lady, I saw her halfway through the week, she came running out of the steam bath and she had this big ice pack on her heart. She said, oh, I'm so glad I didn't listen to the doctor. I'm really enjoying these steam baths. So, yeah, the ice pack on the heart, if someone's at all concerned, and we have never had any trouble. We had trouble one day. We had this young girl, she was working for us, she was about 19, because our exercise and steam bath guy and massage therapist is Howard. Now, Howard's just turned 60 and the guests think he's 40. He's very fit, looks great. If you go to, I think it's www.mmh.com.au. That's MMH is Misty Mountain Health. You can have a look at Misty Mountain. You can have a look at all the staff, and you can have a look at Howard. But this young girl's in the steam bath and she's yelling out, Howard, help! Now, Howard's out the back chopping the wood because we have a wood-fired steam bath. So he came in and there's this girl sitting there, and this guest, who was about 69, had fainted on her shoulder. So Howard helped them out. And then we discovered that this lady would go in the hot steam, just stand in the cool air and go back into the hot steam. You've got to do the water. If someone says, Barbara, I can do the steam, but I can't do the cold water, I'd say, well, I'm terribly sorry, but you can't do the steam. You see, the cold is necessary to equalise the circulation, to prevent chilling, close the pores. So the cold is, that's an integral part of the hot treatment. So what the liver needs in phase 1 is antioxidants. What the liver needs in phase 2 is protein. And what the liver needs in phase 3 is fat. Now, this sounds very familiar with the 3 essential food groups we've been looking at: fibre, protein and fat. We supply the protein in the amino acids in our protein drinks, and we give the fats in the protein drinks in that little bit of coconut milk. So we nutritionally support the liver to effectively detoxify the body. You see, we are dealing with more fat-soluble toxins than any generation that ever lived on this planet. I used to say 30,000 new chemicals a year. Do you know, I was reading recently 100,000. But I just thank God that He's given us a liver that can effectively detoxify us on planet Earth in 2024. If you give it the right conditions. So the Vietnam veteran that did our program, we gave him protein every juice, and another one at 7:30 at night. Because he wanted to lose weight, he wanted to detox, but he needed those amino acids. And the protein that we use is a pre-digested protein powder, so you don't have to digest it. One lady said, "Who digested it?" Well, the culturing process, and that's what they usually do. It's like, you know, when you culture bread in the sourdough method, it breaks down the grain, so you're almost eating a pre-digested grain when you eat the sourdough bread. Yeah? Do our patients wear deodorant through this process? We encourage our guests never to use deodorants because we need to perspire. One poor lady, she said to me, "I'm always perspiring," and so I had an operation to block all her perspiration glands. Do you know, sometimes we just inherit a lot of things, and one might be that we perspire a lot. We'll have lots of showers, exercise in the morning and get a really good sweat up there, and then dive in that wonderful, what is it called? The gorge, yeah. So it's great early in the morning, no one's around, you can have a really good dip. Yeah?
I'm sorry, the twice daily meal, what did you feed them?
The twice daily meal. So we always encourage our guests to have the 3 essentials, which is high fibre, lots of protein or adequate protein, and great fats.
Drink.
So what I'll do is I'll show you what we do, but I wanted to show you this. Now, in my book, Self-Heal by Design, and if you were unable to get a book, you can order one off Emma's website. And I have a whole chapter on the liver. It's called The Liver, the Body's Project Manager. I call it the Project Manager because everything comes first to the liver, and everything that comes out comes under the jurisdiction of the liver. And we encourage our guests to make sure their organs of elimination are eliminating well. And when a person has the steam sauna, up to 70% of body's waste can come out of the skin. Now that's quite remarkable, isn't it? And I have to stress that isn't that the easiest way to get it out? Also your kidneys, that's why it's vital to drink adequate water and have that little bit of salt that gets the water into the cell. But also to ensure that the bowels are working well. Dr. Kellogg said 3 intakes of food a day should equal 3 evacuations a day. 2 intakes of food should equal 2 evacuations a day. And if you notice that the colon won't do what you tell it, if you're going too much and you tell it to stop, it won't. And if it won't go and you tell it to go, it won't. So it needs gentle stimulation, and we looked at that when we did our journey through the gastrointestinal tract. Now our guests, before I rub this off, if you were to read the chapter on the liver, either tonight or tomorrow morning, it will solidify what I have just shown you. And I gave this lecture a few